So we're working on a 2003 700 Sportsman rear prop shaft. The U-joints went bad, and I've seen a lot of videos of people trying to replace the rear prop shaft and figuring out how to get it in there without moving the rear differential. I haven't figured out a way to do it, so I ended up moving the differential back, and it's not as hard as you think it is, but I'll show you what I did to get it done. So here's how we did it. The order I would do this in is take the 4 bolts out underneath the differential. There's 4 underneath there. And then take your lower A-arm bolts out, which would be here, and then on the other side, and here. And you'll have to do that on both sides. And the reason you have to do that is because to get to that bolt right there in the differential, to get a socket in there, you need to move that lower A-arm down. And then after that, you'll take your through bolts out, which is here, 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 and here. So you'll have 6 bolts total. And then once you get those out, get them all loosened up, you'll have to take this through bolt out on your shock, on your suspension here. And the reason you have to do that is because to slide this through bolt out, and to slide this one out, to get them all the way out, you have to take this off and just swivel the suspension up to get those bolts all the way out. And then once you have everything loose and all the bolts out, you'll slide this rear differential back. And right here, you see there's probably 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. And that'll be enough space you need to get that prop shaft in. It's not much, but you don't need much. And if yours doesn't have a hitch, then you can slide it back even further. So once you get that slid back, then you put your prop shaft in and put it all back together. A lot of drive shafts will have another spline here with another yoke, so you don't have to do all this. But this one's welded, obviously, here and here, so seems like there should be an easier way. If anybody has an easier way, let me know. So the bolts you're going to have is there's 5 through bolts that go through the differential and 5 nuts on each side. And then there's 2 bolts that actually thread into the differential. Then on the bottom you'll have 4 bolts that thread up from the bottom of the frame into the differential. I believe these are all 14 millimeter. And this is for the shock. This is for the both sides of the A-arms that you gotta loosen up too. So one other thing I wanted to note is if you look at my other video about this four-wheeler, when the U-joints went out last time, I didn't do all this, and I just put the U-joints in place. So I slid this on and then put this on and then put the U-joints in the yoke there while it was in place. And that's really hard to do, especially to get those snap rings in. And it actually took me about the same time to do that as it did to do all this, because it's such a hassle to get those snap rings in. And I don't know if that was the cause of why it didn't last very long, but that would be my guess. So this is a lot better way, it seems, to do it, and it took me about the same amount of time. Once I got it figured out what I needed to do, it probably took me 3 hours or so.
You in?
Yep. We could lift it up a little bit.
Push it.
Put it back in place.
Hold that, Wiley.
Yep, perfect. Now is the wedge pin lined up?
Oh. Not a really or light there,
Yeah,
Doug.
you know.
Oh.
Okay, put the